A very warm good afternoon to all of you. On behalf of Net Zero Alliance India and First View Group, I am Sakshi, extending a warm welcome to each and every one of you to our webinar today on Net Zero Energy Roadmap, Paper and Pulp. It is my pleasure here to host you all. We would like to extend our gratitude to our presenting partner Sunshore and Advisory Council Terry and our industry association partners Indian Newsprint Manufacturers Association along with Indian Pulp and Paper Technical Association for their immense support to help organize this event. Many thanks to our esteemed guest speakers and the attendees for their valuable presence in today's webinar. Your active participation has contributed to making this event truly a successful event. May I now request Mr. Ganesh Balakrishnan, who is the President and Director of Operations at CSC Paper and Ports Limited, to deliver the welcome lecture.
Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you, India Net Zero Alliance, for organizing this seminar. And also, it is very interesting and it is a very important subject. And I compliment as well as I appreciate your efforts for introducing this subject for pulp and paper at a national level. We are also discussing this subject at IPTA at various seminars, but now it has come up at the national level. We are discussing about pulp and paper. Net zero and global warming, ecological imbalance, so many issues we are discussing at different forums nowadays. It is becoming a very hot and very common subject. Balancing economy or the ecology is not a new subject. Now in this modern environmental management, what we call is as a modern management, I don't think that it is a very new subject, because from the ancient times also we were practicing the environmental requirements, and all these things are taught to us by our ancestors. But the United Nations, they have started this initiative in 1972, and in 1973, first Environmental Day, it was celebrated as Global Environmental Day, and the first theme of that seminar was Only One Earth. That was the starting point of modern environment management, and from there onwards, so at different forums we are discussing about this subject. If we see the industry as a whole, many people are now talking about this subject. Many people are making many statements regarding this topic. When many countries are making some statements and the commitments, and very few countries, they have made it as an amendment in their legal requirements or their constitutions. It has come now. But when we talk about the practical implementation, we are far behind about our targets and our vision for achieving net zero. Now in the next 15 minutes of time, I will discuss about some of the important topics which are related to today's subject of roadmap of energy for net zero in pulp and paper. I think you are able to see the presentations now.
Yes, it is visible.
Okay. So I will talk about this net zero energy roadmap for pulp and paper, and I will take maybe 15-16 minutes to cover my topic. So my talk will be focused on objectives of net zero and about the net zero and the alarming conditions. What is the significance? Why net zero and why we have to follow this? How this all of a sudden how this topic has emerged out, and the necessity at the decarbonization steps. What are the opportunities or the challenges we have to face in order to achieve this net zero? And I will discuss about some of the science-based targets and also the initiatives taken by the Indian government, the roadmap for pulp and paper to achieve net zero or even the energy management systems, the latest technologies or the breakthrough technologies, decarbonization practices, which we are discussing, and also some of the mills are already practicing in pulp and paper sector, and the green practices which are followed at the Sheshasahi paper boards and the way forward for paper industry. With this background, now I will come to the objective of net zero. Is it a new subject? Ecological balancing. It was discussed long back, maybe thousands and thousands of years ago. We were worshipping the nature. That means we were respecting the natural resources. But when the time passed and when the industrialization started, maybe after 1850, now we are realizing the heat. Earlier, net zero practices were followed when the things were in control, when the natural resources were abundant. Now we are talking about this net zero once the damage is already made. That is the only difference I am finding in net zero. It is about completely negating the amount of green gases promoted by human activities. This can be addressed by reducing the emissions and implementing the methods of absorbing CO2 from the atmosphere or the equivalent to CO2 from the atmosphere to the pre-industrialization level. It is not only offsetting the GHG emissions or the balancing of carbon neutralization, it is completely removal of GHG emissions contributed to the atmosphere after the pre-industrialization stage. And to bring it to the level of pre-industrialization. So that is the, in a nutshell, that is the definition of net zero. Now, if you talk about the alarming conditions, every day, everywhere, in every situation, we talk about the global warming, and everybody will say that in few years' time, the global temperature will go up more than 1.5 degrees centigrade. And we are witnessing all these things in the way of natural disasters and the depletion of resources, when particularly when we are operating in pulp and paper sector. Every day we are struggling to get the raw materials, which was readily available and it was abundantly available few years ago. Slowly, the depletion has started. Now we are in the stage of a starvation. So I think these are the three stages of developments which have happened after the industrialization. More GHG are emitted than the world can absorb. So there is a limit. Nature or the Mother Earth can give, but there is a limit to take it also, and it is our responsibility to return it back. And with high levels of pollution, what we are seeing is about 7 million people around the world are being killed every year. And there is an increase of about 11% in GHG emissions, and it is estimated by 2030 by UN by some study, and it is as compared to 2010. And 45% reduction in the GHG emissions are required by 2030 to control the global warming below 1.5 degree centigrade. These natural resources, what we are talking about, from abundance to scarcity, how it has happened. On one side, the industrialization is increasing and it is expected to grow further. At the same time, there is no structured way of sustainability. So we are just using the raw material from the environment, but we have not made so far any concrete structure or an program to return all these resources to the nature. Again, coming back to the alarming situations, I think you might have already read in some newspapers or some media. July 23 this year, this is the hottest month ever recorded in the last 1 lakh and 20,000 years. You can see that the people are not talking this net zero as a fancy item or the fancy subject. It is the reality. And July 23 also had a highest ever ocean surface temperature. As per the study, top 7 emitters, they call it as a nationally determined contributors. China, US, India, United European countries, and the Indonesia, Russia, and Brazil are contributing about half of the global GHG emissions. This is an alarming condition, and all this demand for sustainable practices and green manufacturing. Now, let us think about the significance of net zero. Few days ago, I have come across one video which has come in the WhatsApp. WhatsApp message says that the net zero concept today, what we are talking about, is a drama. Or they say that it is just like one more Y2K, which we have come across about 25 years ago. It was in 2000. And people were talk much about net zero and nothing has happened, and this also nothing will happen. So this is the one type of a video it is being circulated, and the wrong messages it will circulate very fast. But the reality is some concrete structure or for a livable climate, net zero commitments must be backed up by some credible actions. Protecting the planet from the worst impacts of climate change and preserve the planet as it is gifted to us is very, very essential and very crucial at this moment. If you see the numbers, they talk about 1.5 degrees centigrade, it should not increase from the pre-industrialization level. The number looks like a very small number, 1.5 degrees centigrade or 2 degrees centigrade, how it will make the difference. And we are now already at 43, 44 degree temperature, and nothing will happen with 1.5 degree. That is the common opinion people will have. But if you see the numbers of the effect of this 1.5 degree or 2 degree centigrade, by the time the global temperature increases by 1.5, the situation will be very, very alarming, and that situation is called as catastrophic effect. Means we will not be able to come back. That is the point of no return. The situation will be entirely different. The chances of a flood will increase by 100% if it is 1.5, or if it is 2 degree, there will be 170% increase in the flood risk. If we talk about the water availability, 350 million urban residents will be exposed to severe drought by 2100. If it is 2 degree, then it will be 410 million urban residents will be exposed to the drought. So this picture is very, very important to understand the impact of 1.5 degree or 2 degree on the atmosphere on the human and the impact on the human beings. So this is a very, very important and a significant slide to understand the concept of net zero and to take actions as early as possible. Now coming to the necessity and the decarbonization steps, urgent actions are required to avoid and prevent catastrophic climate change. Zero carbon renewable energy sources, deep carbonization methods, or electric vehicles that will reduce 50% reduction in emissions by car by 2030, absorbing CO2 from the atmosphere by capturing the emissions and enhancing the carbon storage in agricultural lands or the forest, and people now, the scientists are talking about fixing this carbon under the sea so that it will not come up again. And the more contribution is due to the energy generation and human interaction with the environment. So today's topic is on movement, our actions for net zero energy roadmap. So this picture actually it depicts on what are the different measures which we can take to control the emissions, and the next is what are the different steps for the carbonization. One is the measure and the management. The second one is the disclose and the reduce methods. Even in business also nowadays we are coming across BRSR, that is the business responsibility and sustainability reporting. Even SEBI also insisting on the top of 500 or the top 1,000 industries to participate, or it is becoming mandatory to declare what are our environmental methods to control the emissions or the GHG emissions within the limit, and we have to declare it and we have to report it to CB every year. So this is the kind of awareness coming into our systems in India. At the same time, we have different challenges as well as the opportunities while fostering net zero. The preparedness. I will ask all the people here, are we really prepared to go for net zero? Are we having all the infrastructure within us? What we think about the net zero, and what is our preparedness to achieve that, and the readiness. Normally we react when the things will go bad. We will not predict, and we will act accordingly. So that readiness, one is acceptance itself. First of all, we have to accept that yes, this net zero concept is important, and we have to achieve the requirements or the commitments what we have made. Challenges are there in the cost involvement. People will say that the cost of doing all these things, it is beyond our reach, and we will not be able to afford to achieve net zero by either by 2030 or by 2050 or by 2070, whatever countries they have committed. But one thing I want to tell you here is cost of not doing it will be 3 times more than the cost of doing it. That we have to understand very clearly. If we don't take any actions, the future will put us in a very miserable condition, and at that time, the money requirement or the cost requirement, it will not be possible at all. That's why the immediate steps are required, even though it looks like a little bit costlier at this moment. Yes, there are some issues with the affordable technologies at an affordable price, time testing solutions, and it will test our patience as well as our time also. But somewhere we have to start. Population growth and the industrial growth, these are the challenges. There is no collaborative work or very little amount of collaborative work in India particularly. We are not at par with the developed countries in achieving these targets at a national level with a collaborative work. The policymakers or the industries, the institutions and the people should come together to address this. Seriousness in the implementation of policies. We are good in making some statements, but in implementation we lack. That part we have to take care. That is the biggest challenge in front of us. But at the same time, when we talk about the opportunities, government, industry, society, and institutions are nowadays they are coming up. For example, now today's seminar itself, it is involving the industry and also the experts in the energy management to find out some workable solutions to address this issue. Awareness is building up. Say 10 years before, when people were talking about the organic foods, the people were laughing, what is this organic food and how to distinguish it? But now everybody is talking and preferring about that organic food. Same thing will happen in this net zero also. The awareness is really building up with the kind of knowledge available with us, and with this kind of seminars or the interactions or the sharing of best practices of the knowledge with the people. Technology and the solutions are also available. New technologies are evolving. Carbon trading is happening. Many industries are practicing green manufacturing either in terms of green co or lean and green practices in their business. I was mentioning about this science-based targets. This basically talks about any industrial business or anybody who is talking about the reduction of GHG and what kind of targets they are taking to eliminate this carbon dioxide emission from their business. Global temperature should not raise more than 1.5 degrees centigrade. This is the common goal everybody will have, and this is one of the science-based targets. 45% reduction is required by 2030. Here I want to say one thing. UN has declared this particular decade from 2021 to 2030 as a decade of restoration and ecological balancing. Why this decade? As per the environmentalists and the scientists, they say that if we are not bringing down the GHG emissions by 45% by 2030, the conditions will become catastrophic. That means that is the point of no return. Even once the Obama has also mentioned that if this generation is not taking care, and then nobody can take care. That is the responsibility on us to achieve it by 2030. That's why most of the countries now, almost I think 197 countries have committed that they will reduce this GHG emission. But at the same time, it has to come in our law. Then only we can say that yes, it is having some meaning. And net zero by 2050, that is one science-based target. India has taken a target of 2070 to achieve it. Here I want to mention that 1973, UN has started the first Global Environment Day with the theme Only One Earth. We have only one Earth. There is no other space to live. Even if the space is available, but it is not suitable for living. That means we have to take care of our Earth. Otherwise, there will not be any space for us. 1992, sustainable practices for focusing on economic, social, and environmental concerns. It has come into the existence. This right-hand side picture, which is having the 7 objectives of maintaining sustainable development goals. It is derived by United Nations. In 2015, Paris Agreement has come. That was the legal binding on international treaty on climate change, and it was a very important uh, event on this environmental sustainability. And in 2021, COP26, that is climate change by some of the parties, 26 Glasgow, that is to adopt, protect communities and the natural environments, where our Prime Minister has made very significant announcement on sustainability practices for the whole world. If we see the picture here, I have shown it as 1850 as the baseline because that was the end of pre-industrialization, and the industrialization started somewhere in 1750, and pre-industrialization where the industries were not there. That was the pre-industrialization level. Then from there onwards up to 2020, now exponentially this temperature is increasing. And in some parts of the world, the temperature has already increased by 2 degrees centigrade above the pre-industrialization level. Now I will come to some of the initiatives taken by the Indian government. I was mentioning about Copenhagen meet or the COP26, where Prime Minister has given this Panchamrit, that is 500 gigawatt non-fossil energy by 2030 that we have to achieve, and by 2027 itself some agreement is there between India and England to achieve some of these energy management systems. In the second phase, 50% of the energy requirement from the renewable energy sources, that is also to be achieved by 2030, and a reduction of 1 billion tons of total projected carbon emissions by 2030, and a reduction of carbon intensity by 45%, and net zero by 2070. These are the commitment by Indian government. Already some actions are being taken. Government agencies are already involved. BEE and even EESL or CII, they are all working on this initiative, very significant for the total industry in India. And also there is one life initiative, that is a lifestyle change for the environment, where our Prime Minister has mentioned that mindful and deliberate utilization of the resources are very, very important or significant, but not the mindless and the destructive consumption. That is the need of the day. So this mission embodies the spirit of P3 model. P3 model is actually, it talks about people, planet, and profit. That is the pro-planet people. And he mentioned about the involvement of all the people for this mission of life, which unites the people of the earth as a pro-planet people, and uniting them for a common goal of ensuring that our lifestyle will change to save the planet, and it is the lifestyle of the planet for the planet and by the planet. When we are talking about the global issues, first thing what we have to do is we have to improve ourselves. We have to set right our house first. That is the first step of any initiative. Now, initiatives from the Indian government. I think I am already running out of time, but I will take another 2 minutes now. India's renewable energy. We are placed in the fourth position. The renewable power generation is increased by 1.5 times from 196 billion units to 291 billion units since 2014. Solar power is also installed, and the capacity is increased from 25 times from 2.56 gigawatt to 66.8 gigawatt since 2014. And there is one village in Gujarat which is already converted into completely on solar energy. Wind capacity increased 2 times, and about 78 billion investment is already made from 2014 onwards. This is the third highest renewable energy capacity addition, and also innovative policy interventions such as ISTS waiver and RPO trajectory till 2019-30. Then the green open access rules are also introduced. Now, roadmap for pulp and paper industry. When we talk about this net zero or the implementation, decarbonization is the very important step, and we also have a lot of opportunities to improve our performance in terms of environment management. First point I want to mention here is meeting our own wood requirements. Almost all paper industries today, they are now striving or struggling to get this raw material. Best way is to plant our own requirements. If we see some of the statistics, the number of trees per person is the determining factor in terms of decarbonization. In India, per capita tree is only 28, whereas in Canada, per capita trees are about 8,953, and in Russia it is 4,400, USA about 716, and China 102. When we compare to these countries, we are nowhere. As such, the tree planting is very important, and this was understood in the ancient times. Now, again, I am coming to the same point. This is not a new subject, it is again reworking and going back to our old practices. Carbon sequestration, planting more trees than what we require. We should not be conservative here. We should be liberal to plant more trees than we require. Then only we can contribute to the earth. And also this will help in second stage of decarbonization. That means it is not only balancing, it is the removal of already contributed CO2 to the atmosphere over pre-industrialization level. The plantations at the nearest locations to reduce the GHG or the logistic cost, drip irrigation, that is mainly to control the water requirement, the selection of high yielding seeds, that will also improve the profitability as well as the contributions to the industry with minimum resources requirement. And based on the soil studies, the selection of the species are required. For this, again, some collaborative work is required to between the government agencies, institutions, or even we can take the help of CPPRI or FRI Dehradun or some of the agricultural institutions where they can contribute and give us some inputs to the paper industry for the selection of species and cultivating the farm forestry. And instead of nowadays nobody is depending on forest based wood. Everybody is having the farm forestry and they are cultivating their own wood requirement. Alternate energy sources, more of our own pulp production to generate more renewable energy. More pulp production means we will be generating more black liquor that will help us to generate renewable more renewable energy, and that is the green energy. Use of bioenergy in lime kilns, use of biomass in place of fossil fuels in coal-fired boilers, or the use of solar or the wind power, GHG neutralization, that is focus on reduction of scope 1, scope 2 and even scope 3 also, and biomethanation gas generation from coal condensate. This is being practiced by many of the leading industries in India now, and fuel gas heat recovery, and carbon capturing units, capturing the emissions from the lime kiln for generation of e-methanol, and also some of the other carbon capturing units can be installed in paper industry to achieve this roadmap. Pat, again, I depend on Dr. Ashok Kumar who can give on more inputs on this. Pat, and this is the latest technology, the breakthrough technology. Actually, this will work when we have more of a pulp production than the paper production. What we have seen in Sweden is they are having 3 times more capacity of pulp production than the paper production. Hence, they can convert this forest biomass into some uh, renewable energy sources for paper industry or some other industries as a power generation point. So, with multiple fuels from the forest waste, it can be used as a resource for energy. This is one breakthrough idea, and already it is being practiced in Sweden in most of the pulp and paper sector. So these are some of the decarbonization practices area-wise in terms of farm forestry or even in paper mills, packing and finishing, and downstream in logistics, particularly on digitization and utilization of resources. I will not go into the detail of this slide. These are some of the green practices followed at Sheshasai paper boards. In green supply chain, we are taking initiatives to reduce or minimize GHG impacts in the supply chain. Material conservation, 100% sustainable sources are from the bagasse through our wealth of out of waste concept, about 83% replacement of limestone we are already practicing. In sugarcane, we are getting the supplying to the sugar mill, which is in our umbrella, and also we are taking back that bagasse, and again we are making pulp. So this type of a circular economy we are practicing for more than 30 years. More than that, many of you may be knowing that bagasse or the sugar cane, it absorbs the highest amount of carbon dioxide from the atmosphere because it is a C4 plant. And GHG emissions, we are reducing about 12.5% usage. And renewable energy, at present we are at about 70% by use of biofuels as well as some of the uh, green power generation by our black liquor sources. Specific water consumption has come down by 23%. We are also practicing rainwater harvesting. And our major achievement is for the last 6 years we have been recognized as Energy Excellence Award from CII, and our specific energy reduction is about 17%, and more than 70 energy conservation schemes we have implemented so far. So this is the roadmap we have made for ourselves for fostering towards a net zero commitment. So in the bottom of this slide, you can see from 2015 to 2033 how what are the actions we have taken, and how we have achieved about 32% reduction in our emissions, and what is our current plan from 23 to 27. Mainly the elimination of plastics in our products, and also the biomass heating with the flue gas. And we have the long term plan also from 2027 to 2030, whereby we want to go for hybrid energy, and also the supply emission reduction by 40%, and scale up our renewable thermal energy innovations, and scaling up of pulp production from the self-sufficiency, and increasing our renewable energy to the level of 75% to 80%. That is our target, which we have set for ourselves, that you can call it as science-based targets here. So these are the ways forward for energy mix renewables. So it is wise to go for diversified energy mix, because we cannot depend only on solar or wind or hydrogen, because it is all depends on the weather and also the timings of these energy sources. India should work on areas like investment in infrastructure, capacity building, and better grid integration in the near future or the immediate future. Here I want to add 3 points. The policymakers or the industry, they should work on green public procurement or the carbon contracts for the difference, and also the carbon border adjustment. These are the 3 steps which we can do. In some of the countries, for the carbon dioxide emission, depending upon the quantity or the intensity of that, some taxes they have to pay. That's why everybody is becoming very conscious about this CO2 emissions. That kind of a policy we can bring to the industry to achieve, ultimately to achieve this net zero. So we have to develop our capability to develop and self-sustainable products. As I mentioned earlier, we have to put our house in order first before talking about the others or the other initiatives. Capturing sustainability driven growth also depends on having a credible answer to the own sustainability impact. Whatever we are saying today, that should be implemented. That should be credibility is required. So science-based targets everybody has to fix depending upon their business or the nature of the business and their affordability. And alternate answers to the plastics is the immediate solutions we can find, and we have to develop our own products at least to replace single-use plastic, and revisit raw material strategy, which I have already explained. So create lead markets for low CO2 solutions in the industry, create account for the materials substitution, comprehensively review the impact of climate policy on bioresources. Already BE and ESL, they are also working with the industry to implement and bring these new practices in the industry, what I understand, and develop a policy framework for the negative emissions or the sinks. So just now I was mentioning about the tax system, and consider life cycle analysis carefully. This is part of the Green Co practice, and also it will become part of BRSR. So BRSR is now really bringing some accountability in the industry now. That is a good sign. And the value for value addition. If someone is contributing for the reduction of GHG emissions, that value addition is to be recognized, and that should be shared with the other industry people so that it can be implemented for everyone's benefit. So with these words, I want to conclude a few words before that. Now the race is already on. For what? For protecting the people by protecting the planet. So it is the time now to hand over the planet to our children in a much safer and healthier condition than it is gifted to us. So our responsibility is increasing now, and we have a lot of things to do. Time is running out. My time has also run out now. I have already taken more time, but at the same time, time is running out, and it is a time to act. And thank you, India Net Zero Alliance, for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, Dr. Ashok Kumar and other speakers for participating here. And also, I thank you everybody for this patience hearing. And sorry for taking more time.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ganesh, for that insightful presentation. It really touched chords with most of our attendees here as well. May I now request Mr. Vijay Mengani, who's the Chief Engineer for the Central Electricity Authority, to deliver his opening remarks for the webinar.
Thank you very much, Sakshi, for inviting first time the Ministry of Power in this forum. And I really appreciate the initiative by Net Zero Alliance to bring together all the stakeholders. Whatever information we are gathering from the field may be of second hand, but these give the opportunity to hear from the stakeholder and also present our views that what Government of India is doing to promote the net zero and climate change action. Now I first thank you, Mr. Ganesh, for giving a very good introductory presentation on this topic. What I want to say that instead of taking it a very big problem, let us break this problem into two parts. One is area of concern and one is the area of influence. We all know that the climate change is a very immediate action required, but everybody has to take its own action because this collective action will solve this collective problem. So what the Ministry of Power is doing, that I will introduce to you. That when we started in 2015, it was a tough journey when our Prime Minister declared the target of 175 gigawatt. And at that time, no one was believing that the India will change its course so rapidly that we will be able to achieve this. Everybody was having doubt. So how we achieve that? We achieve that by concentrating on the all part of the value chain. What are the value chain part? One is the policy. Policy is the most important item when you want to bring a change. And then this policy need to be translated into action. How this was converted into action? That all the part of power sector value chain like generation, transmission, distribution, power market and consumer, all touch point was considered as a whole. And the problem of every area was identified that how these sectors can absorb more renewable energy. Because at that 2015 time, we were already having surplus thermal capacity and we are thinking about that whether our power demand will increase or not. But post-COVID, we realized that all the stakes which we have built earlier, either in field of thermal, hydro, nuclear, In last 2 years, these come into our rescue. In last 2 years, we have achieved 10% power growth. How it was possible? If we have left one option in favor of another option, then we could have been run into the same problem which the European Union or Germany is facing. We opt all the option, and today also, all our climate negotiations are concentrated on 3 points. One is energy security, second, providing energy access to everyone at the cheaper cost, and third, at the same time, don't forget our energy transition targets. So whenever we achieve a target, we always see to a higher target. For example, we started by saying that we will have a 33% emission reduction. Now we are going to achieve 45% emission reduction. In renewable power capacity also, we enhance our capacity addition to 50% of RE by 2030. How we will achieve this if no of all stakeholders are not on board? For example, our distribution company's position is known to everybody. So if I want to add more capacity, more demand is coming from industry. But whether my existing institutes are able to supply that, are able to take this risk, we find that our distribution company may not able to handle all this capacity. So we find in 2021 that the industry is the most important partner for our climate action. In this, industry's partnership is not only required for fulfilling their international obligation or ESG score, etc. We find our industry is genuinely interested to adopt the greener energy, to participate in the climate action, not only to reduce their own cost and improve energy efficiency, but they are also committed to environmental action. Because as our earlier participant has told, that we are all committed to environment action since generation. From Vedas, our total culture is nature dependent. So we have found that unless we create an open access environment, that is not possible to absorb renewable. So first we declare 175 gigawatt capacity. Then we change our policy regarding procurement. Instead of procuring on the assignment basis or fit basis, we put up the proposal of competitive bidding. What it is achieved? It achieved a scale of economy. It brings the cost of solar power from 17 rupees to 12 rupees, 12 rupees to 7 rupees, and now below 3 rupees, both solar and wind are available. This was the only single policy initiative in the taken in the world which has changed the scenario of renewable energy in a country. This was a very courageous step. That instead of only subsidy and support based system, we are going for a competitive based energy procurement. Then we decided, because these energy sources are on the remote end of the country, so as our earlier participants say, infrastructure need to be built. So for our transmission system, we allow all these RE stations to connect to our interstate grid system by making our new transmission system and making the interstate charges for these generators free. So now this power from remote end come to the load center. Now at the load center, we want to absorb more power. How we can do? We can provide this power to the distribution company, to the consumer directly, but there was a problem of open access. So we created a green open access system. We encourage state distribution company to remove the shackle in open access, provide more access to industry, and also industry was encouraged to put up their own captive power plant, captive renewable power plant. One industry, big industry in Gujarat, was facing a problem of connectivity. We first time allowed in 2020 connecting a renewable generating station directly to the ISTS of a private industrial complex, that we provide them open access to a distribution load also. So this was provided a connectivity also to them. Then there was a problem of price. At that time, many industries are not ready to enter into a long-term contract. So we provide the alternate market in terms of green term ahead market and green day ahead market, so that from the power market they can access the power. But I want to caution you here that the what European Union had faced, that unless we invest into long-term power contract, our power system will not be stable, and we may face certain period of not only price uncertainty, but also the supply uncertainty. So why India is better? Because India believe in long-term contract, either in the life, relationship or power. We find that the long-term contracts may initially find negative, but at the long term, if we see total least cost of option, always the long-term procurement is good, both for investor because it can reduce the cost of finance, and also for the demand customer because it reduces the uncertainty of prices. Then after doing this, we find the agriculture is also a big area which is consuming power and disturbing the discount finance. So a PM Kusum Yojana was initiated so that the renewable power is generated at the demand point itself so that the losses can be reduced from 20%. So this was initiative to improve the distribution companies finance. So what industry can do? Industry can come together because why we have chosen the 2070 target and everybody is saying 2050, why we have choose 2070, and how we are framing our day-to-day policy, carbon market, everything. In every time we are considering the industry's competitiveness. If we impose too many regulation, too many law together, early competition like carbon tax, etc., what will happen? At present, our industry may not be able to compete, and what will happen? Our product cost will become costly, and already we are facing onslaught of Chinese product. So it has to be taken a balanced decision that our energy cost should remain cheaper, our compliance costs should remain low so that the industry voluntarily can participate in both the initiative of our energy efficiency and clean energy. So my colleague Ashok Kumar will tell you that how the carbon market was designed to take care of all these 2 points. So my request to the industry and the industry leader here are to engage continuously with the government because earlier trend was not there that every problem needs to be solved through influence. What is happening in Ministry of Power and Central Electricity Authority? We put up a target of 90 days for solving every problem. Any industry which come to the CE or Ministry of Power or any issue is facing, we try to solve all technical, regulatory, connectivity, infrastructure issues within 90 days. So you will be happy to know that we have planned up to 2030, 500 gigawatt of power, and also the transmission system has been already provided. So, and you must have been hearing green hydrogen. From three green hydrogen hub, we are already preparing the transmission plan. So, from the Ministry of Power is concerned, we assure every cooperation to the industry that all the issues, even in the state level, whatever they are facing, please communicate to us so that all the problem can be solved. And this type of interaction need to be there. And also do not get disappointed if something is not happening immediately or all the target which are being shown 2030, 50, 70 are appear to far reach. Because what is my belief that instead of only focusing on the short-term success, we should focus on the significance. Because once the significance is known, then our small step, small victory, which we made every day, will become more valuable to us and we will become more confident to enhance our targets and achieve that. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for that insightful address. I'm sure everyone will appreciate it. I would now request my team to play the commercial video for Sunshore, our sponsor.
The renewable energy revolution has begun. Conventional sources of energy are proving too costly for the planet. As a renewable energy hotspot, India has the potential to lead the world's decarbonization journey. That's where we come in. Sunshore is India's fastest growing renewable energy company. We believe in delivering maximum impact by harnessing the power of RE technologies to supply round-the-clock clean energy to industries across the country. We run both intrastate and interstate plants to deliver green power at any scale of requirement. Since 2014, we have helped over 60 corporations transition to clean power, cut costs, and achieve their ESG and RE100 goals. Our investors, Partners Group, are powering Sunshore's vision of becoming one of the largest global renewable energy producers. India's renewable energy moment has arrived. Be a part of it.
Thank you, team, for playing that. Allow me to introduce Mr. Kartikeya Sharma from Sunshore to share the presentation for his company.
Thank you, Sakshi. I'll just be presenting my screen. Let me know when you can see it. Is it visible?
No, not yet.
Yeah. Can you see this?
Yes.
Thank you, Sakshi, and thank you, Mr. Mengani. Thank you, Mr. Ganesh, for taking us through what are all the things that the paper and pulp industry is actually doing, setting a great foundation for this discussion on the idea of achieving net zero for all industries, not just for paper and pulp. And Mr. Mengani, especially for adding so much information and detail about how the government is actually playing a great role, an important role in making sure that this goal for industries in India becomes a reality in a very convenient manner. I'll start out this discussion by talking. I will not take too much time since we're already pressed for time, just 5 minutes. I'm Kartikeya Narayan Sharma. I'm one of the co founders at Sunshore Energy, and I also lead the strategy function within Sunshore. Sunshore, we started in 2015, and over the last almost 10 years, we've been working with some of the largest corporations in India to help them achieve their energy transition goals by transitioning to renewable energy sources. Very recently, we have raised a $400 million equity investment from Partners Group, and now we are one of the most well-funded companies operating in the renewable energy sector, focused on the corporate sector in India. And with this massive financial backing, we are aiming to achieve installed capacity of over 5 gigawatts by 2028. So it's an ambitious goal, but we believe that it is completely in tune with the ambition of the corporate sector in the country. And I think that we've had a great start to this discussion today by looking at the kind of uh, uh, measures and initiatives that industries such as Seshai, paper and pulp are taking, paper and boards are taking. So how we come in and help you achieve your decarbonization journey, in your decarbonization journey is by number one, first and foremost with our renewable energy power purchase agreements. wherein you can simply buy power from us either under the captive model or under the third party model from either solar plants or wind plants or a hybrid combination which can help you get round the clock green power. And we are giving this power from both intrastate and interstate plants. So any scale of requirement, we can fulfill it anywhere in the country. Apart from this, we also help you procure green attributes for whatever scope 2 or scope 3 emissions that are remaining with you to help you get to RE100. Some of our customers are listed here. This is part of the 60 plus customers that we serve across the country with our 400 megawatt installation. And Merino is a specific case that I would want to call out for the paper and pulp industry. They are India's one of the three largest board manufacturers in India, and they use a massive amount of paper as their raw material, and have been our customers since 2015. Our open access projects across both interstate and intrastate projects, encompass the entire length and breadth of the company. Rajasthan, we have a 900 megawatt solar power project under development on the ISTS network. Similarly, we have ISTS wind projects under development in Karnataka and Tamil Nadu, whereas we also have intrastate solar projects in UP, Maharashtra, Karnataka, and Tamil Nadu. So moving on to I have a very few slides about what we feel that the paper and pulp sector in India can do to achieve the net zero goals. So to quickly start out with, paper and pulp actually is recognized globally as one of the top five hard to abate sectors, along with iron and steel, chemicals and petrochemicals, food and tobacco, and machinery. And almost 2.5% of all industrial emissions globally come from the paper and pulp industry. In India, the paper and pulp industry is a booming industry. It has always been. And today, India stands as the 15th largest paper producer in the world. We have also seen a lot of export traction in the industry, and our exports have gone up more than 4 times in the last 5 years. Maharashtra in India is one of the largest producers, followed closely by states like Tamil Nadu and Uttar Pradesh. So, in our view, when you're thinking net zero, then there are three broad pillars on which you must work. In the paper and pulp industry, of course, Mr. Ghate had gone into a lot of detail on this. I just want to touch upon the same thing that will be a revision to what he said, is that make sure that your energy use is net zero. This is 70% of the problem. Make sure that your circular economy practices are in place. You're able to recycle most of what you produce. You're able to find it, recycle it, and reuse it. And at the same time, also encouraging your supply chain, your suppliers to adopt renewable energy and help them source sustainably, source raw materials, and also help them understand your circular economy practices, so that your entire ecosystem can prosper along with you. So focusing on energy use, because that is where Sunshore is a key partner to industries across the country. We believe that signing up open access renewable energy across solar and wind can help you displace easily around 60% of your total electricity use. If your industry is largely run on grid electricity, then open access helps you offset almost all of your or a large part of your scope 2 emissions. Then for the remaining section of your emissions, you can choose to buy green attributes. These attributes could be coming from renewable energy plants, could also be coming from other projects such as afforestation, CCUS, etc. And then, of course, on-site power. Try and deploy solar power within your rooftop, within the available land area, because that is an asset that is the closest to your production and directly helps you make great economic benefits along with an offset of your carbon emissions. So open access power, which is the biggest chunk of your net zero journey, is a great and again I would like to extend my thanks to Mr. Mengani from the Central Electricity Authority. We believe that the Ministry of Power has done an amazing effort in the last 5 years, especially in promoting open access across the country, whether it is intrastate or interstate. And today, these benefits that you see on the screen, almost 35% savings on power expenses, ability to offset 75% of grid power, reducing your scope 2 emissions, no cross subsidy or additional surcharge on captive open access. These are all things that have come because agencies like the Central Electricity Authority, the Central Electricity Regulatory Commission have come out with game changing reforms in the power industry. So today, a typical open access project, you can actually start getting power from within 6 months of signing up a power purchase agreement with Sunshore. Of course, the biggest and the most uncertain phase of these open access projects is the development phase, where you get the right connectivity, you get the land acquisition, you get the environmental and social impact assessment studies done. Um these take a lot of time, typically anywhere from 6 months to 12 months, depending on the size of the project and location. But after that, it is smooth sailing. Project delivery, permissions for long term open access are all solved problems today. And customers can very easily expect to get power in 6 to 7 months from signing off a PPA. This is a quick chart to just illustrate how open access, for example, in a state of Maharashtra, can benefit to commercially benefit the business apart from its environmental aspects. So in Maharashtra today, the grid charges are somewhere around 9 rupees 35 paisa per unit. Solar power, even if you're buying it at 3 rupees 80 paisa per unit, lands to you at under 6 rupees per unit, helping you save almost 37% on your cost of electricity per unit. You can offset almost 50% of your power using just solar in Maharashtra. And if you couple that with wind, you can take it up to 60 or 65%. So as you can see, the business case for buying open access renewable energy in a key industrial state like Maharashtra is actually very strong. And it is no wonder that some of the largest industries in the state are already moving to open access. Now I want to spend a minute talking about the captive structure. So the captive structure is what allows you to set up projects so that you are able to avoid the levy of cross subsidy surcharge and additional surcharge on your purchase of power from a privately owned power plant, wherein you have to own 26% of the equity in this project, and the other 74% of the equity is owned by Sunshore, and we supply power simply to you at a fixed price for 15 years. So that's it. That's the end of my presentation, and I thank you for having us here, and look forward to a very engaging discussion with some of the leaders of the industry here today. Thank you. Over to you, Sakshi.
Thank you so much for that insightful presentation, Mr. Sharma. I would now request Mr. Ashok Kumar, who is the Deputy Director General from BE, to deliver a keynote address on net zero practices achieved in paper and pulp industry. Over to you, Mr. Kumar.
Uh, thank you, Ms. Sakshi. Hope I am audible.
Yes, you are, sir.
Thank you. First of all, thank you for the invitation to Net Zero Alliance, for this opportunity to interact with the experts and, of course, the paper industry. Paper industry is one of the industrial sector that we are closely working with under the scheme called PAT, uh, Mr. Bhatti has mentioned in his presentation. So since we had an excellent presentation right from Mr. Bhakti, and then Meghani Saab, and then now Mr. Sharma. So I have a few fill in the blanks to be done, but I think most of the substantive discussion or the points have already been raised. So I would do some, maybe my own cocktail of what all has been said, and a little bit of addition that I can make, in particularly to the activities that we undertake at the Bureau of Energy Efficiency in the paper sector. But I would also take to the point where Mr. Ganesh Bhaktiji has started on the context of the context where, why we are all here and why we are discussing all the points of net zero or climate issues is, we must recognize now that, as again Mr. Bhakti said, that climate change and the global warming in the earlier times, it used to be far away from us, a distant discussion. But now it appears that it is touching to everyone's doorstep, particularly in a country like ours. And we have seen just recently in Sikkim, and then Himachal, and then Uttarakhand, and all over our country, and of course the other places in the world. So the cardinal, you can say, the set points, particularly the 1.5 degrees centigrade temperature, 450 ppm concentration, and several other, the bounding parameters are now somewhat at the risk of breaching. So that is what, not hearsay or not any kind of a speculation, but the committee of the scientists of under the IPCC, in if you see the sixth assessment report which has just been released, it categorically mentions that we have very limited time to act upon. And also Mr. Bhakti mentioned about the decade of restoration, and I think that is the point, that we have only a decade to possibly course correct the way that we have mismanaged the whole thing, where the whole existential threat is looming on the humanity. So that is where I think the urgency of acting, and of course we as a country and the sector as a paper, and as has already been presented in the presentation by Mr. Ganesh, and somewhat also been highlighted by Mr. Sharma, that we are responding to the, within our means, and also to meet the global challenge of this climate shift that is taking place. You would see lot of, the in terms of the ambition that the country has made in the climate mitigation, right from the share of fossil based energy, non-fossil based energy usage, efficiency improvement, intensity, emission intensity reduction, and several other activities or several other commitments that we have made. Despite that, the country of our tribe need not to be taking such ambitious steps, yet recognizing that the impacts of this global climate shift is going to be felt very hardly or very severely by a country like ours, where the millions of population live very, very close to the rhythms of nature. So any slight change in the process or the cycles of nature has a direct impact on the lives and livelihoods of millions of our countrymen. So that is, I think, has been very well seen in the recent climate kind of manifestations. If you see that there were very big aberrations in the normal way that our particularly local weather was behaving. In the common knowledge, we were told that the monsoon reaches the Kerala coast on the 1st of June, and by the end of June or 1st of July, it reaches to Delhi, and it takes around a month to travel from Kerala to the plains of Delhi or the northern plains. But this year we saw that the monsoon is raining, or the monsoon rains are falling at the same time at the Kerala and at the Delhi. So the fundamentals of physics, or the very cause of the onset of monsoon, has somewhat disturbed. And also we were told in the news reports that in places like Leh in Ladakh, UT, where the annual rainfall is about 3 to 4 inches in a year. And what happened this year, in a matter of 8 to 9 hours, there were around one half or maybe one third of the rain, kind of a rain, fell on that particular period. So you might have seen some of the streets of Leh was flooding like somewhat in Delhi or the Bangalore. So that is the kind of situation that we are in. And in that situation, if we recognize that these are the causes of the anthropogenic actions that we have done and we perceive, then the action has to come to that scale and scope and speed with which we can address those changes and mitigate, and possibly then we can live long, as again Mr. Bhakti's the last slide was that we will be able to transfer this particular habitat to the new next generation, if not in a better position, at least in the position that we had. So that is, I think, the reality of our time. So in the paper sector at the Bureau of Energy Efficiency, as many of you know, you are interacting with BE. We have PAT scheme, under which I think about, I would say from a total of around 26, 27 million tons of installed capacity in India. I think almost 18, 19 or so is covered under that scheme. So we have a huge number of huge participation of the paper industry, and we are dealing very closely with them. And many of the units like HSSI, Century Paper, BITS, ITC, and several others are we are interacting on almost very frequently. And the PAT has been quite success in the sense that the industry would appreciate, and also their contributions very well recognized all across the globe. In a sense, this is one of the programs that is being appreciated or recognized in other parts of the world, and also many countries are looking at replication of such programs in their countries. And I see there are many improvement in for instance, the emission intensity of wood-based paper plants in the 2010s duration, it was about 0.79, and it has now come down to 0.58. So huge improvement in the emission intensity level of the paper industry. And also recognizing that, and I think Mr. Sharma has mentioned, paper industry is also one of the larger contributors to the overall emission, being energy intensive itself, and also several other aspects of its material usage and energy usage and other aspects to look into. So certainly paper with we have IPMA closely works with us, and we have a lot of presentation in the technical committees. And we have in recent times the Honorable Minister has directed us to form a sectoral advisory group, a kind of a expert group to advise on the further the challenges of decarbonization of the sector. So in which again many of the sector lead industries are participating, and we have formed, and we are in discussion with identifying the possible new approaches, new technologies to kind of identify, and then we can kind of materialize into some sort of demonstration project that can be taken up at the BE or the Ministry of Powers level, and then in association with a certain central institute of excellence and the research associations of the sectors like the CPPRI. So we are working on that. And of course, the discussion on the carbon market, as I think many of you know that the Government of India has already notified the scheme, and currently it is in the advanced stage of formulation of the various framework documents, and also working out on the possible methodologies of identification of potential targets that can be assigned, and then the quantum of target that would be assigned to each sectors, and accordingly in the more or less in the pattern of PAT schemes, where you would have certain groupings and all the nuances of the performance verification that more or less parallel to the PAT scheme. But of course, as it is entering into the carbon space. So whatever is necessary in that carbon market context, it would have all the features of that requirement of that particular market. So that is one aspect. Then another aspect is, as far as we in all discussions, for instance, once you reach the dry up the energy efficiency opportunities and other maybe possibly even the decarbonization opportunities in terms of fuel switching, then you would need to look into possibly the new generation of technologies. In that context, the TIFAC, the under Department of Science and Technology, that is currently in a process of what they call is technology need assessment. So in that, they are interacting with the sectoral associations and the units. They have done such consultation with the cement industry, so they would be approaching to hopefully to this the paper industry as well. So that way, it would be an opportunity to identify the technology needs, and then that can, once some kind of identification or the firming up of the requirement of technology that would be documented, that would be available for particularly like Mr. Meghani, who represents technology in the co-op negotiations. So those negotiators can take those technologies on the international platform for negotiating on the technology transfer, and that is currently being taken up in the you can say from the government side. At least we are helping, we are coordinating and we are also actively participating in that technology need assessment. And we have done, in a sense, in the whole process of PAT exercises, in the course of verification and several other potential assessment studies, we have also found some of the potential technologies to which we are in process of identifying. And there are few projects in the paper sector we are trying to say fund for demonstrating through the collaborative exercise of CPPRI and IIT Roorkee, so that we are in a process of doing that. So in a summary, or in a short, I would say that the paper sector has been performing exceedingly well, and they have, I think, resorted to, as far as our experience under the PAT, and they have also been able to, as again Mr. Bhakti was mentioning about the housekeeping. So they have, most of the units have kind of, at least to a large extent, they have started housekeeping exercises, and they have tightened up their own loose ends at particularly in the context of energy usage. And many of the interesting activities have been taken up, as some of it has already been mentioned. And also towards the larger goal of the net zero, they are committed to looking at all the opportunities possible, because for industry, or for country, or for the whole globe, that this addressing climate change is not an option. It is we do not have option to, possibly we might be postponing for our peril, but if we are recognizing the severity in honest terms, it is, it has to be done as early as possible. As you recognize, as you are experts here, the lifetime of the carbon molecules, or the climate shift causing elements in the atmosphere has a long life, and the mitigation that has to come at the ground, and that eventually result into the mitigation of the effect, and that's impact to be felt on the ground, would take long time. So for us it is, and as a particularly when I speak here, I certainly represent Bureau of Energy Efficiency, but also I come from a place where the global surface temperature has been much more than 1.5. The glaciers have just vanished in front of my lifetime. So it is it is a very very kind of a hard time for person of our type to when we discuss here or discuss in the forum where we would be looking at the possible ROIs and payback periods and all that. It appears that in a situation of a crisis of this magnitude, various calculations, the methodology of calculating or the valuing the process itself has to be revised or the revisited in light of what is in store for us. We have seen in the small shock of pandemic that we had, and that had crippled the world, and the climate change crisis is much larger than COVID kind of a pandemic, where we might not have any respite from sanitization or containment zones. So we would be looking at, or we are facing a unprecedented challenge of our time. And again, I would take to Mr. Bhakti that this generation has to take decision. This generation has to, because history puts this generation at the crossroad, that if it is in our decision as an individual, as a corporate head, or anybody where you are, and particularly in the context of, I think, Honorable Prime Minister's life concept, where everyone is to be involved. Every single citizen has to take action, and in that sense, I would, for experts here, I would just urge that this discussion has to, beyond the nuances of technicalities, it has to be kind of colored, or it has to be dressed, or it has to be equipped, or kind of strengthened with the urgency of the limitation that we have of the time and the constraints of several, particularly in a country of our type, where millions are yet to reap or have the benefits of the resources that whose usage has caused all these problems. So that is where I think we have to deliberate on, and we will look forward for the discussion of the this meeting from the experts here, and we would like to have some inputs or guidance if it comes at once this meeting gets concluded. So I am again thank the Net Zero Alliance for the invitation, and looking forward. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mr. Ashok, for that insightful address. As we all are aware that India has secured its place as the fifth largest paper manufacturing nation in the world. However, with this growth comes the pressing need to address the industry's environmental impact. Through this Net Zero Energy Roadmap, paper and pulp webinar, we delve into the energy landscape, carbon emissions, and the potential for achieving carbon neutrality in the Indian pulp and paper sector. In today's webinar, we will delve into how these industries are doing their part in addressing climate change and achieving sustainable goals. Before we proceed, I would like to make a brief announcement. We encourage all attendees to actively engage in the discussion by posting their questions in the Q&A box. Our panel speakers will address these questions during the interactive Q&A discussion session once we conclude with the panel discussion. Now, without any further ado, let us begin our highly anticipated panel discussion session for today. It is my pleasure to introduce the speakers. Mr. Girish Sethi, who is the Senior Director from TERI. He will be the moderator. Mr. Anuj Kumar Tayal from the West Coast Paper Mills Limited. Mr. Kartikeya Sharma, who is the co-founder and the Chief of Strategy from Sunshore, and Mr. Surya Narayan, who is the General Manager from Century Pulp and Paper. Over to you, Mr. Giri Sethi.
Yeah, thanks, Sakshi. Am I audible?
Yes,
Hope
sir.
I'm audible. Yeah, thanks. So, with this very exciting, I would say, presentations, the four speakers, I think, who spoke at the start of this webinar, starting with Sri Ganesh Bhakti from the Seshashai Paper and Boards Limited, I think, and more importantly, also representing IPTA, and then followed by Mr. Meghani, Dr. Ashok Kumar, and also uh, Mr. Kartikeya Sharma, who is also on this panel. I think everybody has spoken and given the background, the importance of net zero. So I think I was really fascinated when Dr. Ashok Kumar mentioned about the one sentence that he has seen the glaciers melting in his lifetime. I think, and he comes and he's so passionate on this subject. We have seen Dr. Ashok Kumar talking about it. I have personally seen him from the BE days for so many years, I think, and now uh, we are all talking about this whole phrase of net zero. Although I think the Bureau of Energy started this whole journey on the PAT program, where energy efficiency is one of the key levers, and as a part of the net zero, when we talk, irrespective of which sector we are talking about, whether it is the pulp and paper or it is the steel, cement, any of these sectors, energy efficiency is going to be the first fuel of choice. And I think the Bureau of Energy Efficiency has done a tremendous job in getting us all aware of the benefits of energy efficiency ever since, I would say, the Energy Conservation Act came into existence. And now we are seeing the benefit. The PAT scheme is the brainchild of the BE, and we have seen how it has helped transform the industry sector today. And now we are transforming from the energy efficiency to the carbon markets, and Bureau is again taking the lead. So I think I don't want to give the background, and given the fact that we are slightly, not slightly, I think we are running quite late. We would like to hear from the speakers, the three speakers who are there on this panel. But before I jump on to each one of them and request them to say a few words, I would just like to mention that as TERI, we are also working very closely with the industry sector for all these years on, first of all, the basic things of energy efficiency. We are part of many of your programs related to energy audits. We have our own accredited auditors teams. And also we are working closely with the Bureau, of course, with the Central Electricity Authority, with many other. We have an MOU with CEA on many of these aspects. And also, uh, very importantly, I think in this whole journey of net zero, the role of the international partners will be extremely important. And we as TERI have been lately also working with the World Bank, the SED program, and others, including GIZ, in supporting the net zero roadmaps for many of the sectors, which is the theme of this particular webinar. And one of the five, six sectors under the World Bank SED program, which we are doing, is the pulp and paper sector. So I just wanted to mention that as a part of our recent exercise, very clearly the four levers which really figure out for the pulp and paper sector, as we have initially done, is one is on the energy efficiency. Second comes circularity, which has also been touched upon by the earlier speakers. Thirdly, the switch to the RE, I think, and Kartikeya mentioned about this whole thing in great depth. And then also, I would like to mention, I think that finally, it's important to also talk about the fuel switching, which was not perhaps touched in so much depth as we talked about RE. But I think the fact remains that the paper industry specifically does use a lot of thermal energy, and that is in the form of steam. And there is, of course, a need when we are talking about net zero also to move in that direction, how we can eliminate. Many of the paper mills in India still continue using fossil fuels, primarily coal and lignite, in their operations. So what are the options available in these four major levers to move towards a net zero pathway? India has declared 2070 as a target year, but I believe sectors like pulp and paper can really make the first choice and could be able to really switch over to totally non-fossil fuel capacities well before the 2070 numbers which we have. So with these initial words, I would like to uh, first of all request Mr. Suryanaran Patapati, who is the general manager of Century Pulp and Paper. It's one of the largest paper manufacturers in the country. And I think, Mr. Suryanaran, I think maybe if you can just touch on what do you think would be the key levers? What exactly, I did mention about the four levers, but we have also heard from Shai and others. What do you think the Indian paper and pulp and paper sector, aligning with the global movement towards net zero, should be doing in the years to come, both in the shorter term, in the next 5 to 10 years, but also more on the long term towards reaching a net zero pathway? Uh, Mr. Sunarayan,
Thank.
will you?
Am I audible, Mr. Girish?
Yes, yes, you are very much audible. Please go ahead, sir.
Yeah, I sincerely thank the organizers for inviting me to this. But before we share my opinion, I like to stress upon one thing that most of the leading industries in Indian paper industries are already not net zero, even carbon positive. Why I say this? We use Ashok sir may agree with me. We use less than or close to 1.5% of India's coal consumption as an industry, and our raw material is wood. So the carbon sequestration is natural by design in our business model. And most of the industries that are wood based, major industries, have their own plantation drives, and uh, we are carbon positive, and it is being certified by agencies like CIA and all. So net zero is already surpassed few years ago. That's my opinion. Then coming to one more thing that I want to highlight is PAT cycle has really helped the industry to move forward in this direction. If you see the PAT cycle one, paper industry stood first in terms of percentage, that we crossed almost 100% achieving the targets. More than 100% what was assigned to us. In the PAT cycle two, we are the second in terms of percentage that we surpassed the targets that was given to the industry. So industry has been forerunner in terms of what uh, uh, BE is asking us to do, and it is also helping us to improve our profitability. Also, it's not like we are doing for a noble cause and all. This is my opinion that it also makes sense to the business. Once we, this is what we realized in last 15 years, that what is good for the planet is good for the business. So this is one thing that paper industry uh, can confidently say. And coming to your question, that what we can do further improve on this is the fact that I want to highlight that paper industry is doing well, and also not a negative industry, that most of the shops, if you go to a bata shop, they say that avoid paper. If you go to, if you get an email saying that green initiative, avoid paper, but I'm saying use paper, and it is more greener than what you think. So we have some other challenges than emissions that we touch upon later, but paper is a green industry. Then improving our energy efficiencies, we have been improving our efficiency. If you see Bharti sir's presentation, he's targeting to 70 to 80% in in next 7 or 8 years time. If you see in 2014-15, if you see the presentation, it is around 50%. Now the improvement has been large. This has coming primarily from our own business model again, the renewable energy coming from our own black liquor that is being generated as part of our process. The most of the green energy that is coming to us is the key to improve our efficiency in terms of carbon emission reduction is to improve our own pulp production, the way Bharti sir explained in his production. I park it here. Once I get another opportunity, I'll share my other thoughts. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks. I think thanks, Mr. Sundaran. You are absolutely right in your initial remarks that paper industry is, of course, when we compare it with some of the other sectors, this is a comparatively far more greener industry because you use a lot of biomass. Uh, of course, many of the mills are agro-based, wood-based mills. So you are, and also if you look at, of course, not your plant, but I think there are lots of other plants which are maybe your plant as well, I guess, who are using a lot of recycled materials. Recycling is probably one of the largest contributors, if one can call it. And I think from that aspect, the sector as a whole can should definitely be categorized as one of the greenest sectors already. Maybe I'll take this now time to opportunity to also introduce and request Mr. Anuj Kumar Tayal, who is the Senior Vice President Technical of the West Coast Paper Mills, another large paper plant in the country. And Mr. Tayal, maybe I could request you also to maybe initially start and give your views on what do you think as an industry as a whole, but maybe if you would like to also paraphrase your comments, looking at your company, how you as a large paper mill are taking steps in terms of the new emerging technologies or the business models that will help shape the future of the paper industry in India. So over to you, Mr. Tayal. Can I? Are you
Thanks,
muted?
thanks, thanks, thanks,
Yeah,
thanks,
go ahead.
Mr. Krish, and thanks the Net Zero Alliance for giving me the opportunity to discuss openly related to the issues and you can say the constraint related to the net zero. Okay, as basically said, you can say the as a West Coast paper mill, uh, we have done you can say the as a industry we have done a lot of initiative related to the towards the net zero. Okay, and you can say the some of the highlights related to the net zero is related to the one is related to the MDT, where we use the heat loss, utilize the heat loss in terms of the steam saving, and that basically a you can say the a great initiative related to the minimizing the heat loss, and you can say the almost we the industry has basically saved around 100 metric ton of steam on that part. Okay. Another part is related to the what we are basically targeting is related to the we are basically using the fossil fuel enzymes that basically helps to improve the efficiency of that fossil fuels, and that basically has a tendency to minimize the fossil fuel consumption by 3 to 5%, and that you can say the gives a boost to the industry as well as the to minimize the carbon emissions. Okay. In terms of the some other parts related to the where we have already basically doing work, already completed the work, and you can say the commercial side we are going on, and that's you can say that the one is the major aspect is related to the how to improve the fossil fuel efficiency, and you can say the one of the major initiative which we are planning is the you can say the implementation of the XPlate technology, and that you can see basically the aim is to improve the to minimize the oxygen clusters, and that basically helps to improve the efficiency of the basically fossil fuels, and that minimize the basically air requirement, so the you can say the overall you can say the fuel reductions. Okay. Some of part of you can say the one another major aspect that we are completed and you can say the it's already running from more than 1 year. It's you can say the implementation of the you can say the cooking ad, and that basically helps to minimize the white liquor consumption as well as the WBL generation per ton of pulp or per ton of per disters, and that helps to minimize the power consumption as well as the steam consumption at the operator side. Okay? These are the some of the basically major initiative that we have implemented in our you can say the West Coast paper mill side. But as a you can say the upgradation of technology. Okay, since you can say the some of the steps that we are planning, one is based related to the you can say the currently you can say the in the Indian paper industry, which are you can say the almost 40 to 50 years old. Okay, that are using almost 40 or 63 bar pressures, whether it is on the recovery side or whether it is on the powerhouse side. Okay, but you can say the in terms of the efficiency of the power generation, we are also proposing to basically switch over from 63 to 120 bar, and that basically enhance the power generation per ton of steam. So you can say the at a part of the fossil fuel, or you can say the on a part of the efficiency side, it gives to the boost. Another aspect which you can say the from our energy cell part, or we are basically concentrating related to how to basically eliminate the generation from the condensing power. And you can say the whatever the you can say the condensing power being generated through the condensing is being basically uh, be adjusted or be procured through the whether it's through the solar, or whether through the you can say the renewable energy or wind side, so that you can say there the heat the energy loss can be minimized on that part. You can say the some of the other initiatives, you can say the one of the you can say the it's not a it's you can say the not say basically very new, but it's encouraging that we are also planning for the VFD part on the HT motors. So that you can say the it's not basically something in the paper industry side, okay. So but you can say the on the other side, we are also you can say the APC mechanism, APC control in terms of the our recovery side as well as the pulp mill side. That you can see the some of the initiatives which are we are planning in the near future, okay, in the short term, or related to the long terms, it's already basically on the paper side it's completed, that we will go to up to high pressure you can say the power generation system from existing 63 to maybe 105 or maybe 120 bar.
Thanks, sir. I think it's so nice to see the initiatives which your company, West Coast Paper Mills, has been taking, and now you are also going to the next stage where you are talking about going to high pressure, so up to 120 bar, 105 bar, which definitely is something which is technically the one knows who is from the engineering power side that higher the pressure, the better would be the efficiency as we move forward in that. So thanks. I think I'll come back to you if you are able to. I know I think we are a bit behind schedule, but maybe I'll come back to you maybe in a couple of minutes. Before I will now request Mr. Kartikeya Sharma, who is the co-founder of Sunsure. I think we did hear you, sir. I think earlier, a great presentation and a very nice, catchy video at the start of your presentation on what Sunsure has been doing. Uh, I think you did mention very briefly that there is a huge, very large, close around $400 million commitment from the Partners Group, which you have got, which is perhaps going to help move the needle faster on the RE space. So would you be able to give some idea to the paper industry here, because this audience is primarily for the paper sector, how you as an RE producer, as a large investor in that field, would be able to move the needle faster? Of course, you have talked about, I know, uh, uh, the open access topic which you mentioned earlier, but anything which you would like to add so that we can accelerate the process of the coal-based captive production to RE-based? Anything additional which you would like to tell to the audience?
Absolutely. Absolutely, Mr. Sethi. Thank you so much for presenting this question to me, because I think this is a question which is very close to my heart. And not just for the paper and pulp industry, I think it is for all hard to abate industries. And I've had the good fortune of following the PAT scheme for a long time now. And for the last almost, I think, 7, 8 years, I've been following the progress on that very closely. And I understand that the speed at which the leaps and bounds that the paper and pulp industry has taken to add efficiency along with all the other hard to abate industries. Renewable energy, of course, when the PAT scheme was introduced, was not a very economical choice for power production. Pulp and paper being a very power intensive industry, has always been reliant on highly reliable and easy to access thermal power plants, and coal obviously was a great it was a fuel of choice when the industry was growing, because it was easily available and cheap. But today, while as we look at the energy transition, and industries have voluntarily taken it upon themselves to move to a paradigm where they are solving their energy problem from greener sources. I think I have worked with a lot of industries, whether it is aluminum, steel, mining, textiles, and also pulp and paper, where captive plants are a go to energy solution. And what we are seeing increasingly is that people are creating plants which are staggered, right? So, what you do is, for example, for merino industries, they have a cogeneration plant. So they need a lot of heat when they press the paper and make a plywood, and for producing that heat they use biomass, and the steam that is produced for the process is also used to generate energy, right? uh, they moved to that, but now even something, a solar energy open access solution in UP is actually cheaper than even that, and their grid reliability in Hapur is amazing now. So they don't have a problem of reliability anymore. So what's happening is that they are finally, after 3 or 4 years of deliberation, they have decided to finally move away from that captive power plant. Of course, it's only a 3.5 or 4 megawatt cogeneration plant, but they've decided not to generate electricity from it. They are simply going to use that steam for the process. For larger industries like Shesha Sai, like Century Pulp, I believe that even though accounts wise you would be net, maybe carbon positive, but moving to renewable energy today is I feel a economic decision. And I love the way Mr. Suryanarayan talked about, good business which is good for the planet. I feel that that is the way to go. And today, I think industries which are located in the southern and western belts like Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, Andhra Pradesh, Maharashtra, even Gujarat actually have great options in solar and wind hybrid solutions, which can give them, if not firm, right, but you can be sure that at any given point of time you will have at least 50% or 40% power available, CUF wise, and in sometimes you will even have 100% power available. So depending on when you have made your capex into your thermal power plants, what is the cost of generation you are getting from your thermal power plant. I think it is quite straightforward today, and we can have that discussion offline if there are specific questions. Happy to answer at the end of the panel also. That you should think of some quantum. You should think of 20%, 40%, 50%. A lot of large industries are thinking 70% annual plant load factors. And they are able to get that power at very economical rates, something under 4 rupees per unit from solar and wind hybrid power plants. So if you are in these states, you can get this solar and wind power both from within your state. If you're in a state like West Bengal or you're in a state like Odisha, you can actually use the ISTS network and buy power. Of course, the minimum load that you need to make a ISTS solution viable would be around 20 to 30 megawatts at least. So I think that would be my suggestion, that based on your total demand, your existing sources of power, and how aggressive you are with your green ambition, make a choice and think of what percentage you can transition to greener sources of energy.
Yeah, thanks, Karthik. I think that's very clear and crisp. And what I can hear, I think what you are trying to say is that perhaps every industry, irrespective of whether it is a paper plant or any other uh, captive power user, large company, they need to make a choice or do a very specific analysis on how much you can start moving towards RE, and whether it is only solar or a solar wind hybrid. I think that's the best, which one can go up to 30-40% capacity utilization, and how much you can. And I
Even
think that
even
would be very,
seven even
yeah,
70%. Sir,
definitely, yeah,
annually
sure.
you can reach 70%.
So I think it's a very plant specific, factory specific decision on where the capex has been made, and that's what I think one should try to encourage all the large industries who are captive, uh, who have a captive power plants based on fossil fuel, to start thinking on those lines. And that's very practical. And I think um, you mentioned also initially about Marino. I think let me also mention that as Terry, we were very closely working with the Hapur as well as all the Merino plants here in terms of energy audits. And then we did say to, I think, the management of Merino that, and they are very passionate. And I think you rightly mentioned towards the end how passionate and how aggressive you are towards your green targets. And Merino is one of those, and unfortunately, they are not part of this. But they are, I think, equally passionate pulp and paper producers today in the panel, and I am sure everybody is moving towards in that direction. So I think before I close, I think, and we are slightly late. I think I don't know. No, Sakshi, do we have time for one more question to the panelists, or do we need to wrap it up now?
We can extend it, sir, no problem.
Okay, okay. So maybe just one last question, at least to the two panelists from the paper industry, which I am particularly keen to know, is that we have talked about energy efficiency, we've talked about RE. I think these are the two things which, to me, are actually commercially viable today. As Karthikeya mentioned, energy efficiency is anyway a very viable solution. But some of the solutions where I initially very briefly mentioned things like which are the long-term solutions where we need to really start moving the needle. Dr. Ashok Kumar briefly mentioned about where the need for R&D has to be there in the long term. We have heard, I think, in the literature, things like electric infrared dryers, where in the paper section, where specifically where we can do away with steam, or any other solution where technological solutions would be available to move the needle faster for really a net zero solution, wherever the balance small percentage, whatever is left on steam. So, any thoughts from either of you? First by Mr. Surendran and then by Anuj on that.
Uh, Anu sir, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, please, please. Yeah, in terms of basically, you can say the towards the near future, you can say the one thing where as a Indian paper industry part, we are somehow basically lagging. That it's a basically knowledge sharing part. Some of the industry side, you can say the some of the industry are going good in terms of some part of the energy initiatives, or you can say the on the efficiency part, or you can say the advanced technology part. But you can say the on the other side the replication, or you can say the utilization by the other industry, you can say the may be lagging. Okay. And that you can say the one of the major aspect that we have to basically to be open in terms of that knowledge sharing. Okay. Another is, you can say the where still there is some basically related to the confusion, or you can say the since you can, in India, you can say the part of the industry had utilized, you can say the or implemented the micro turbine concept. You can say the where they are using the PRDS, or where there is a pressure gap in the steel, that you can say the part of the power generation can be made from that delta P. Okay. And it's can help, you can say the from, you can say the 200 kilowatt to up to 1 megawatt power generation with this, where PRDS is being used. Another aspect is related to the industry 4.0. Okay. It's you can say the one of the you can say the maybe one of the major source that can help the industry, not only the paper industry, but you can see the across all over the industry, that can help towards the net zero initiatives. Yeah, Mr.
Thanks, thanks, thanks. Yeah, Surendran
Yeah.
ji, any thoughts from your end?
See, I have two couple of thoughts on this. One is the whatever infrared dryer or something you mentioned, they are not very proven at a massive scale, no. But we have some technologies like turbo blowers. They are proven at very mass scale. If some agency can pull all paper industries to push to bring the cost down, that such technologies we need to compile as a team. Then we can think of bargaining collectively and bring the cost down. This is possible. But I want to share one thing, especially on digital. No, we have seen various levers in my experience to bring the cost down, like TPM is one of the concept, then operation excellence, or the various levers that management uses to bring the cost down over a period of time. I believe the next lever, or the present lever we should say, is digital. The digital will help both RE as well as efficiency in supply side as well as demand side, to bring the cost down, to improve our green parameters. This is where the area where we all must focus and utilize it fully. These are my thoughts.
Thanks, Surendran. I think we'll like to get more information on all these new age technologies which are at a lower technology readiness levels, so that the what I think Dr. Ashok Kumar mentioned initially, very briefly, I think that they are wanting to work with CPPRI and IIT Roorkee to see that these new technologies, if they need to be demonstrated at scale in the industry. So we
No
would
need
like
to
to get this.
no need to demonstrate. They're already proven, but they're not cost effective as of now.
Sure.
We need to work together how to reduce that cost of ownership. So
Yeah, basically,
it's
we need to have a business model or a financing model to see that the costs come down for these new technologies, which are today not economically viable but commercially
yes,
viable. That's what you're saying.
yes,
Sure.
yes.
Thanks a lot. I think to all the three speakers, Anuji, Surendranji, and also Mr. Karthikeya Sharma. And I would just like to say that we at Terry, towards the end, are really keen to work closely with the corporate sector, with all you players to see that. Uh, we move towards really net zero corporates. We already have a near zero charter. More than 70 companies are part of that. We would love to see them more and more. And at least we have good representation of the paper industry also as a part of the near zero charter on the industry in net zero alliance. So thanks a lot, everybody. And back to uh, the host, Sakshi.
Thank you so much, Mr. Sethi. We will now move on to the Q&As that has been discussed here. We'll be screening some questions and inquiries from the audience for the panel discussion. Mr. Sethi, who do you think will be the right person to answer these?
I think one of the two speakers, Mr. Surendran, would you like to take this one from Khushbu Gupta on converting lignin sludge generated in the pulp plant ETP, or any of them?
No, this question is from my own group, so I'll will take it personal level. But I didn't understand
Okay.
I didn't
Okay.
understand
Okay.
the question well.
Yeah. This is from Grasim. Yes. Okay. Any, yeah. So Karthikeya, do you want to take this on the taxonomies on finance? Otherwise, I can just.
I am not actually very sure what this is alluding to, but I think as far as sustainable finance, um, availability of sustainable finance is something that I can comment upon. I feel that there is a lot more sustainable finance available today in India. India has emerged as one of the top destinations for impact investors to come in, and renewable energy and energy efficiency. These are the two most preferred sectors of investment. And while I don't have the numbers handy, but I'm sure the investment that is flown into these two avenues, right, renewable energy and energy efficiency for industries, is probably one of the top 10 investment sectors from international impact investments in India over the last year. Uh,
Yeah, sure. I think you're absolutely correct. I think, and we have been attracting, and your company is a good example of that. That you've been able to attract a huge financing in the recent time to support this whole transition. Uh,
Absolutely. Thank you.
any Sakshi, do you have any more comments or questions or solution to upcycle the waste of pulp and paper industry?
It's you can say the currently you can say the if we take the waste from the you can say the raw material side and the pulp mill side, it's almost you can say the whatever the bark which you can say the from the chipper house is being taken out, it's basically taken into consideration into the powerhouse. And you can say the if we consider the you can say the wood based, you can say the 100% you can say the chip dust is being utilized on their continuous plant, on the power plant. So it's basically whatever the waste from the pulp side, okay, in terms of the chipper, mainly from the chipper side, is being used in the powerhouse. And you can say the in terms of the paper waste, it's you can say the some of the industry related to the fiber or fines waste is being basically used by the board side board side, or some you can say the X-ray side, or That is, you can say, from my side.
Yeah, I think you're correct. I think we must notice that this question has come all the way from Tunisia. I do not know what kind of paper mills are there in that part of the world, but broadly assuming that they are similar to what we are
But
having it in this in
but
India.
Mr. Girish, broadly the waste generating from our industry is mostly recycled.
Yeah,
Barring I must say
correct.
0.1% where we don't have solution right now, but mostly the solid waste coming out of our plant is recycled,
Yeah,
whether inside
nothing
or
gets
outside.
wasted in the paper industry. What can really understand have this? Yeah. Next, Sakshi, if you have. Yeah, I think all the examples, maybe this is a very generic question. So, to go from Gaurav, I think the examples what were given by the speakers here for the West Coast Paper Mill earlier by Sheshashai, I think all these are examples of energy efficiency and RE where they are working on reducing the GHG emissions. I think so. That's clearly all those are the examples of the activities which the industry is doing in terms of reducing the GHG emissions, primarily CO2, whether it is energy efficiency or on moving towards solar or wind hybrid. Next one.
I think these are all the questions
Okay.
we have for today.
So
Uh,
that's all, I think. Thanks.
that's all. Huge thanks to our audience and panelists. With this, we have come to the end of our virtual event. Big shout out to our attendees for extending their time and support for this event. Many thanks to our partners Sunshore Terry, Indian Newsprint Manufacturer Association, and Indian Pulp and Paper Technical Association for their immense support to help organize this event. And of course, a very special thanks to you, Mr. Sethi, for superbly managing the session. Your expertise and guidance has greatly enhanced the quality of this discussion. As we conclude this event, we assure you that we will be soon back with more exciting sessions. The floor is now open for networking. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, Mr. Ashok, and thanks, Ganesh Bharti, sir.
Thanks, yeah.